My guest tonight on our Artist Spotlight is a member of the band Sunflower Bean. They've been keeping busy in upstate New York over the summer, but also New York City as well, and have recently put out their new song, Moment in the Sun. It's in the EHM New Music bin. Please welcome Julia Cumming. Julia, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. The song is a lot of fun, and I feel like we kind of needed something like that because it's been, well, dare I say, it's been an interesting few months. Where have you been holed up, so to speak, over the past few months?
Well, I've been mostly in New York City, which was really tough, but really cool to see everyone kind of come together and figure out how to survive this. And then the band and I went upstate in order to be able to kind of work again and collaborate again and be together in person. I mean, I always said that I loved being a musician because I felt like I actually got to work with I have this a bass in my hand. I have a piece of wood in my hand. I don't have to look at a screen all day. And now that has kind of shifted, but I guess that would have happened at some point anyway.
Now, when did you write the song "Moment in the Sun"? Was it during quarantine or was it before that?
No, actually, we wrote it before quarantine. You're always writing songs and trying to catch kind of the magic of that day. And I wrote it in a time in my life when I was really happy in my personal life and wasn't really used to that. It was kind of this new experience because when you're an artist, and especially an independent artist, you're constantly on that grind trying to figure out how to make it work. And it was the first time that I felt like I really had a grasp on what I thought my life should actually be about, which was the relationships that I value. And I think that quarantine really highlighted that because it just kind of showed all of us that, tomorrow is really not promised. And all this kind of career stuff or all these things that we use to kind of make the day pass are just, they're not as important as what's going on inside. I mean, it sounds really cheesy, but I know so many of us that would just love to like hold our, moms again or our family. And I think that the time actually right now made it possible for Moment in the Sun to make sense, because it just gave it this extra space to, I think, reach the people that it should reach. So, I mean, there's no real silver lining to right now, but I am glad that while we're feeling heavy and even writing things that are heavy, we're able to create this kind of world around this song and give it a place and a reason to be out here.
What is actually a nice for the summer for everything that's going on. It is kind of a fun song. You did a great job with the video too. Tell me where the idea came from. I know you went to upstate New York to film that with the band.
Yeah, well, we were really lucky. I mean, I think for most people, we didn't know if we were going to be able to make a video. It's like everyone makes plans and then
Life,
and
yeah.
then life gets in the way. So we were just trying to figure out how we could make the best thing that really encompassed the world of how the song made us felt with what we had. Like my manager did my makeup. She did a million jobs, like my boyfriend's sister, everyone was like working on it. Basically everyone that was like right around us is we're
Yeah.
like, this is what we're doing. Let's get this happening. And luckily Andy DeLuca, who's like a longtime collaborator of ours and who was like just nominated for a VMA, and his creative partner, Sarah Eisman, were living in Woodstock about an hour away from where we were. So we were really lucky to like have some of those longtime collaborators close by. And they just we worked with them to come up with this treatment. And I loved the indoor outdoor aspect because most of our lives have been taking place indoors, and it's been about bringing those memories into the little rooms that we have. So it was pretty intense to create this like sod room with real flowers and all this stuff, but I'll definitely never forget it. It was like a once in a lifetime experience.
Well, it looks like you've made it through quarantine so far, so good, and some really creative stuff coming out of it, which is kind of cool. Have you been writing during it, or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have been writing. for a long time. So our last big tour was the Beck Cage the Elephant Spoon tour last summer, which was like this kind of really surreal, amazing stadium tour, and then we did that, and we opened for Bernie Sanders and the Strokes in New Hampshire. It was kind of like still a lot of exciting shows, but now we've just been focused on creating that work, and we're trying to not give any exact answers on when the album is expected, but I think all creatives are working right now. You know what I mean?
And
It's
that
it's
makes
the
sense.
only thing there is to do. And I'm so grateful for this time, and I never knew if there's no way to imagine this happening. There's no way to imagine this time that we're in right now. So I'm just trying to enjoy my family. My boyfriend and I adopted a dog
Oh,
during COVID, which I never thought was possible. And I'm just trying to like use all of these really important life experiences that I wasn't sure were going to happen with the lifestyle that I was living, to really make something special.
that's a really good way of looking at it. I'm curious. I kind of want to go back a little bit, and I don't want to say the beginning, so to speak, but you do come from a very musical family, and I'm curious how, because this is an interesting time, and you set yourself a chance to kind of sit and not reflect necessarily.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
That was really crazy. That was my mom calling. We can start that question over, I guess.
If you need to answer your mom, that's important. I don't want to.
No,
That's all right.
no.
We can pause this.
Could you text her and just tell her that yeah, all good.
All right, cool. Just making sure. So now speaking of your family, it's like she heard. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
come from a very musical family. What was it like growing up? When did you? Because it sounds like music is something you've always done.
Yeah, it's funny. My parents always joke that they didn't want me to be a musician, like they didn't push me into it. But music was always playing in my house, and it was always the most important thing. Like I remember even going to elementary school, and the first thing that I would ask kids I met is like, "What's your favorite band?"
That's
And
great.
they'd be like, what are you talking about? Like what? And I was like, I don't know. It was
That's
just
who you are. Yeah.
yeah, it was just how I thought you communicated with people. And I always knew I wanted to be in a band. I just didn't know how. There's no degree for this. You kind of just have to jump in and see how it goes. And luckily, being in New York City, I was able to get a foot into the world at an early age. And actually, Nick and Jacob are from Long Island, and I met them through playing shows because we were all these like kids
No,
playing
was
shows
this all
together.
part of the, I guess, the Brooklyn DIY scene? Was that kind of how you
Yeah,
kind of came upon it all?
yeah. I mean, they were just always in the city playing shows, and I was always playing shows. And there was only really like 20 of us teenagers who were like crazy enough to do it, or shall I say, like our parents turned a blind eye to just be like, all
Well, I
right, I
was
guess
curious,
you're
what's that like? Because it seems like, I mean, it's clearly it's kind of do what you want, literally, and kind of get involved, and it has to be an interesting experience to kind of take that leap of faith to do that.
yeah. I mean, I think I think the people that really do it don't really think that there's another choice. Do you know what I mean? Because it is a leap of faith. And what I always say about music and entertainment in general is like you could leave at any time and nobody would care. Even if you were the most famous person, time just moves and life just passes all the time. So it's like if you want to do it, you are the only one that is going to make that happen, and you're the only one that is going to carve out that path for you. So really the ones that do it are the ones that are crazy enough to stay or lucky enough to find people to do it with them. And that was me. I would be nowhere without Nick and Jacob, and also my manager Krista, who we're really like a 4-person family that we are Sunflower Bean. We do everything.
Were you still in high school when you met those guys? And were you friends?
Yeah, yeah. I was about to be a senior in high school. I was studying classical singing and thought that I might go to conservatory. And by the time I was graduating, The band was in full swing. We played the most shows out of any band in New York City that year. And I was being flown out to Paris to do modeling stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm only going to be 18 once, and I'm just going to see where this goes. And it's been a wild ride.
Was it interesting when you just started with the band? Was there pressures to do a certain type of music and a certain sound that you kind of knew what you wanted to do with the band?
Well, one thing I'll say about Sunflower Bean, and I think that Nick has been a really strong purveyor of this, is that um, we've always wanted to kind of do the opposite of what's cool, which I don't, it's a really interesting way of doing things.
In a way, that's what's cool then.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's what I think. It doesn't always work out, but like when we started, everything in Brooklyn was super shoegaze. You couldn't dress up, you couldn't play guitar solos, you couldn't, it just, there was this, kind of very My Bloody Valentine sort of universe that we were just in. And I met Nick and I thought, well, this is the greatest guitarist I've ever met. He shreds, and we have to follow that. And even then, when everyone kind of, I think, thought we were excited to do blue, and so on,
Zoom is freezing
we
for a
always
second.
stay a little bit. Oh, is it okay?
Yeah, we're good now. We'll edit that out. Don't worry.
Okay. No, I was just saying, I think that we're trying to kind of beat ourselves to the punchline a little bit, and get in front of the cliche, so we can continue to drive who we are and not really be defined by a trend, because I think when you are too wrapped up in a trend or a certain sound, it's like you're kind of digging your own grave,
You're riding the wave till it ends, essentially.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you guys want to keep growing as a band. And you're really, I mean, it's so young, starting in high school and doing so many different shows. What was it like to then do all of these live shows, but then get into a studio to record a record for a record label? What was the differences there? I'd imagine it was a different mindset.
Well, I mean, I think we've been really lucky working with Fat Possum and then Mom and Pop, especially Mom and Pop, who they're, a really strong and a really big label that are still indie and still believe in the artist to define what they want their career to look like, So I think that luckily we've avoided a lot of the parts of kind of like what you might refer to as like the toxic or scary, like major label world.
Yeah.
And, I think we've definitely done that with intention, because like I said, we are in charge of every musical thing that happens and image thing that happens, for better or for worse. We're in charge of who we are as artists. And it's definitely been a learning curve, like,
Was there a plan in your mind when you started with the band, and all three of you, and four, it sounds like, with your manager? Was there kind of steps you wanted to get to that you knew, that you saw in the distance, said, okay, here's how we can get here. Here's A, B, C, D. There's no plan for bands these days, but it sounds like you had an idea where you wanted to go with this band when you first started.
well, kind of like I mentioned before, it's really, really hard to find people that you trust. Yeah. And that you artistically agree with. And me and Nick and Jacob all came from the same musical place, I felt, and we all were similarly crazy enough that we wanted to sleep on floors and, really kind of like push ourselves to this place. And I really, really wanted us to survive, and I really wanted us to do well. And I just had the belief and the faith in the three of us as musicians, no matter where that was going to take us. And I still do it. And people still ask me what Sunflower Bean is. And I still say, like, it's me, Nick, and Jacob's baby. It's all of our creativity put together. And whatever it is on that day is what we're going to do.
I asked you about the kind of the design and then the goal in mind. It sounds like the one thing that you were certain of is you wanted to play the most shows and get the most experience and just
Yeah.
do it and and essentially exercise that muscle and get as much experience in the industry. What was it like going out doing South by Southwest as one of your first festivals and to see this thing grow? It must have been kind of rewarding.
It's been really rewarding. I mean, with music, I think it is in my mind, it's kind of like, if this makes any sense, it's like very horizontal, like your growth rather than I feel like going up kind of goes outward, because I think the way that you reach people is so broad, and I think that it's really about staying in and believing in yourself and believing in what you're doing and that it will reach the right people. I mean, like when we got, hardest working band in New York and played the most shows, we didn't even know that we were doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like we didn't do that with any intention. We
That's
just
interesting.
did
Okay.
it because we took every show because we wanted to just be out there, and it was who we were, and then when it happened, we were like, oh my God. And playing South by, I mean, it's really hectic, it's really insane, but it's also just a great way to see what's happening in the musical world and like meet your contemporaries and just like get excited for the next year, because it really does define what's going to happen musically for the next like year or 2 years. And I never thought I would miss it this much. you know
It's interesting. You said that that defines the next year of music. I'd be curious to see what happens because there wasn't one this year, and everything's kind of I don't say grinded to a halt, but it has in some level. Where do you, as far as the future goes, with everything evolving? What are your plans with the band right now? What are you guys trying to focus on and see where kind of exist in the new world?
Well, what I think is really cool about right now is that I think that a lot of the judgmental energy of the like epitome of the blogosphere is less important. I think that right now musically what's important is putting out your work and it getting to people, whether that's on streaming services, whether they're getting it directly from you. And I think that listeners and artists are less judgmental than ever about what they like. They just like what they like. And as an artist, that's actually really cool, because I think that we're not personally feeling worried or defined by journalists or anyone. We're just making what we want to make for ourselves and our fans. And so I think the future of music is less, how can I put it, bureaucratic. It's more free. I think we're going to continue to see artists put out more singles, collaborate with each other, do things in different formats, and really try to change the status quo. And even though it's a really difficult shift, I think that it's good that we're going through it. And ultimately, music shouldn't be about the status quo. That's not why any of us are here. We could just get an office job instead. It's about doing things differently and living differently.
I think it helps too because the one thing that you need through these times that it has helped, and I can speak for myself, is music,
Yeah.
and it's actually kind of very therapeutic for everything we're going through. Everything might be uncertain about every aspect of the world, but new music is great to kind of dive into and listen to. What have you been listening to during this time? What's inspired you?
Oh man. Well, um, the new Eve's Tumor record came out, who I really love, and I actually sang on a couple songs uh, on that record, which maybe I'm biased, but the other songs are really amazing too. Um, and I've just been trying to get music from all sorts of areas. I mean, I think for better or for worse, like TikTok has become a huge way that people discover music, and it's a huge opportunity as a musician to get things into people's ears in a different way. But yeah, I mean, I'm listening to new music, and I'm also listening to things that I've things that I've loved before, even like Tegan and Sarah. I'm going through a horrendous Tegan and Sarah phase right now, where it's like I feel like the songs are playing in my head when I'm not listening to them. It's like I'm kind of like, I can't believe that this is happening to me. I need a break. You know, Kate LeBon, who I adore forever. But yeah, a lot of music, it's like you said, music never judges you. Music is really reliable. You know, you put it on and it's like your friend. You know how it's going to make you feel, and you know that it's there for you. And that's why it's a really magical thing that you know doesn't even exist physically. It's just like a essence. So I'm, you know, I'm grateful for the music that I like, that has been here for me in this time.
Last question. I was just curious because you were young when you started. You're still young, but what would you say if to someone that is trying that's singing on TikTok, like you mentioned, and they have
Mhm.
their YouTube channel and they're doing what they love, but they don't know what direction to go in. What would you give? What advice would you give them to help them and using your experiences over the past
Uh,
15 years?
my advice would be, you know, that there's only one you know, and there's always people that are more talented or are prettier or you think they deserve it more, but the ones that are really, that really, to really get what you want, you have to really stay. You have to stay in the game, and you have to only do that for yourself. And if you want it and you believe it, you can make it happen. You know, that's it. It doesn't, none of the other stuff matters. It's really just about not giving up. It sounds really cheesy, like I hate when people say that to me, and people still do, and I still stay. You know, I still have to say it to myself. But
No, it's easier said than done. You know, to keep going and to do what you believe in. So
yeah, and there's, you know, it's almost like it's like your career is compounding. You know, keep putting out those videos, keep singing those songs, keep writing the songs, even when you write 10 bad songs in a row. The 11th one might be amazing as long as you're following who you are and nobody else, and you're doing it for yourself and nobody else.
terrific advice. Julia, coming from Sunflower Bean, thank you for spending some time with us on the Artist Spotlight. We really appreciate it. Good luck
Thank
with
you.
you. And
And we, you know, we're Long Island strong,
that's
you know.
right. That's right. From Glen Head up the island. Your Oyster Bay is awesome. Where you know you were from the city and you met those guys, right? And you kind of
Yes, I was, but I always say that I don't think
lured them to the big city.
I didn't become a really good or even a decent musician until I met Nick and Jacob, because I really needed Long Island to grow. So I have a huge soft spot for the island.
Well, if you're ever out east, feel free to stop by the station. We'd love to have you, and we wish you the best of luck with everything going on. And we look forward to hearing the news, hopefully, about an upcoming record or an EP,
There, I
whatever.
promise we're not going anywhere.
Good. Julia from Sunflower Bean, thank you so much, and have a great day. And
thank,
thanks for being a part of the Artist Spotlight tonight.
thank you. Bye.